Next to Lasix, you probably won't find a more hot-button medication topic in the world of racing today than the drug Clenbuterol. Originally prescribed and used with only helpful intentions, many now feel that the drug needs to be banned completely because of its misuse. Why is this? What is so good and so bad about Clenbuterol all at the same time? Thoroughfan looks a little deeper into the issue as Doc discusses the Clenbuterol controversy. So what is clenbuterol? It is what is known as a beta-2 agonist or beta-2 adrenoceptor agonist. These drugs have a variety of effects, but they are clinically used to relax smooth muscle in the smaller airways in the lungs of horses who are suffering from what is known as recurrent airway obstruction, or RAO. RAO used to be known by a multitude of other names, such as heaves, COPD, although the latter has fallen out of favor, mainly because RAO in horses is really not the same disease process as COPD in humans. Now, both RAO and possible precursors to it called inflammatory airway disease, or IAD, are grouped under the term equine asthma. In cases of IAD and RAO, in the case of racehorses in the US, it is usually dust that is found in barns and with hay and straw, since most are kept in stalls 22 to 23 hours a day, causes an inflammatory reaction in the horse's airways that causes them to constrict and become clogged with mucus. You can see some of the mucus that is being coughed up by the horse here in this picture taken from an endoscope placed down the horse's trachea or windpipe. Clogged airways means less air getting to where it needs to be, and as such, less effective respiration by the horse. So in severe cases, as you can see in this video, even at rest, the horse can have an increased respiratory effort. In more mild cases, it can rob an athletic horse of top performance. Enter the drug clenbuterol. It, along with some other drugs in severe cases, can help alleviate the symptoms of this condition and help a horse get back to peak performance. Those smaller airways in the lungs are lined by smooth muscle, and this muscle starts to constrict as a result of the inflammation in IAD or RAO. Clenbuterol acts to relax that smooth muscle to allow air in to pass and the horse to breathe easier. In addition, it also helps to thin out the mucus, making it easier for the horse to cough it up. Finally, it increases a process known as mucociliary transport, which also helps to push the mucus and any other things caught up in it up the respiratory tract to be expelled. All of this adds up to a happier, more easily breathing horse that can then go on to compete at the top performance level. Seems like a wonder drug, doesn't it? Well, as is often the case with things like this, the devil is in those darn details. See, as I mentioned before, clenbuterol can have some other effects on the horse's body as well, effects that many consider to be performance enhancing and therefore cheating. Some of the side effects could also be downright dangerous to the horse's health, depending on who you talk to and what research you look at. I spent some time looking over these claims and seeing what the current research is saying to see if I could somehow bring some clarity to it all and explain things in an easy-to-understand manner. Not sure I succeeded, but we will give it a go. One of the main reasons folks claim clenbuterol is a performance-enhancing drug is that one of the other effects it has on horses is causing what is known as repartitioning of tissue from one type to another. In this case, fat tissue is decreased and muscle mass is increased. This increased muscle mass, it is claimed, makes the horse faster and stronger and thus gives them a competitive edge. To see if this is true, one has to look at the type of muscle being increased, and from the research that I have seen, it is what is known as type 2 muscle fibers, or fast twitch fibers. These fibers work more for short bursts of quick energy, as compared to type 1 fibers, which have a different makeup and tend to last a lot longer before they reach fatigue. So one could presume that clenbuterol would have a better performance-enhancing effect in sprinting horses than those running, say, past 7 furlongs and farther. It certainly does make sense when one looks at the quarter horse world, where its use was widespread before crackdowns began, since quarter horses are only running full speed for a few furlongs at most. In fact, when it was first looked at in depth in quarter horse racing, testing revealed in some cases that 100% of the horses tested that were in training had clenbuterol in their system. It became pretty obvious that not every horse on the backside was taking it because they suffered from asthma. Now, there are some that will also argue repartitioning does not mean the same thing as anabolic steroid that is used specifically to build muscle. Technically, it might probably be better to say anabolic-like properties of clenbuterol when used at a mid to higher range dose over a longer period of time. It is interesting, though, that the World Anti-Doping Agency does ban the use of clenbuterol under the anabolic steroid performance enhancing opinion they have of it. What can't be argued is that the repartitioning effect of clenbuterol, when used as some claim it is, and testing seems to bear out, does lead to more muscle mass in these horses. The effect is so pronounced in some cases that allegations of farms using it to beef up their weanlings and yearlings at the sales to fetch a higher price have been circulating for some time now. Some people also argue that even if you're using it to provide muscle relaxation to the airways, that would allow more air to get into the lungs and provide an unfair advantage from a respiratory standpoint, as more oxygen means better performance. Well, it's not really that simple from a physiological standpoint, but regardless of that, you can't use the drug to overdilate the airways, so it wouldn't help in that manner. What is a very interesting finding is that studies have looked at the effect of clenbuterol on overall aerobic performance of the horse, since it was argued horses on clenbuterol just ran faster for longer. What they found was actually the opposite, in that horses actually tired more quickly and did not improve their aerobic function and endurance the way those in the placebo group did. The exact cause for this is under investigation, but some feel that repartitioning effect to type 2 muscle fibers, which do not use oxygen to generate more energy, is partially to blame for it. It has been shown that clenbuterol can have an effect on heart muscle as well, potentially increasing it and, in theory according to some, make it pump better and lead to better performance. The data does show it can have an effect on cardiac muscle, and it can lead to better what is known as cardiac output, but how much this affects performance remains unclear. What is very concerning to some is that clenbuterol can also increase the diameter of the aortic root, the area of the aorta that comes right off the heart. This could lead to a higher chance of rupture in this area and sudden death in the horse. At times, this is the vessel that does rupture when you hear of a horse dying instantly on the track from a ruptured large vessel. Finally, side effects of clenbuterol when normally given can include a slight ramp-up of metabolism, nervousness, sweating, and agitation. In fact, if it's not administered properly or too high a dose is given, some of these side effects can be really severe and even fatal. Some folks claim that before it was more regulated, trainers and vets would give clenbuterol to horses just before racing to kind of jack them up for competition and somehow take advantage of those side effects. That's not really possible anymore with the new withdrawal times and increased sensitivity of testing for the drug. However, rumors still circulate on the backstretch and beyond of trainers that have sort of figured out how to microdose clenbuterol, so now they can still get the same effects, but because the doses are so small, they can get away with it without a test coming back positive. There probably is some truth to this rumor, but whether it actually is effective that way is anyone's guess, really. So, after looking at as much as I could easily find, you may be wondering a little like I was, is clenbuterol really performance enhancing? Since some of the science seems to contradict itself, and studies have shown a horse actually does worse when exercised after getting it consistently than when they are not. I personally am still working on wrapping my head around it all, but there is one group that is convinced it does aid performance, and that is the professional handicappers. Look at their argument, and you would have to agree, really. They have noticed that horses that get transferred to a barn with a trainer that is either rumored to have used or has actual positive cases lodged against him or her for the use of clenbuterol somehow have these miraculous increases in performance both visually and in the figures they run on the sheets. These trainers all of a sudden have their win percentages skyrocket as well. Then, if the horse is claimed off one of these miracle trainers, as soon as they race again, their performance tails way off again. So there has to be something to it. Numbers just don't lie like that. Where does that leave us in the whole clenbuterol debate of a drug that does great things in helping asthmatic horses breathe, but can also be abused? Well, you can decide that for yourself as to what you think is best, but it does seem that if racing is to continue to try and improve its image, and with other drugs out there now that can have the same positive healing effects of clenbuterol without the questionable side effects, then the best course of action is to completely phase out or ban the use of the drug. Some racing jurisdictions are working towards that end in increasing the withdrawal times you can give clenbuterol before a race and requiring a specific veterinary prescription if it is used for a horse. One thing does remain certain, though, and that is the controversy surrounding clenbuterol will not be going away anytime in the near future.